Welcome into the show. It's the spring of 2026. And if you're here, that means you're one of the bold people looking to buy a home. And history is going to show that your decision to block out all the noise so you can find your rent replacement strategy is going to be the foundation of financial growth and stability for you and your family. Nothing proves this point more than the fact that it's time to bring out the old tips and tactics for bidding wars. Yeah, it's happening again big time, at least in half of the country. And today's episode is going to arm you with the ultimate list of tips and tactics so you can come out on the winning side of bidding wars without overpaying. 50 tips. Let's go.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's happening, my How to Buy a Homies? I'm your host and first-time homebuyer coach, David Sidoni. Every year, I put out the definitive education for first-time homebuyers in whatever's going on in our current market. And if you're new here, this year's 2026 First Steps, they're 10 episodes, and they start at episode 400. Start there, and if you have more questions, you can check out the episode guide. We'll put that in the show notes for you. That's got topics on all the titles of anything you could think about for buying your first home. Or you can always go to howtobuyaHome.com and ask me directly. There's a button that says Ask David, and I return them all. Today, I'm going to give you my 50 tips to win a bidding war. Now, I've done this before. And that's because over my 20 years, thanks to the historically low inventory, most of the time that I've been involved in real estate, I've seen bidding wars, low inventory, multiple buyers. Happened from 2013 right up to COVID. Then after COVID, things got nuts. 2020, 21, 22, and 23, things went crazy. So back then in the spring of 2023, I put out a 3-part series. It's episode 175 to 177. What I'm going to do now is give you the 2026 version of all the tips that I laid out back then. Things are slowing down a little bit, but I'm still hearing multiple buyers in many parts of the country. So these are the tactics that you're going to need to use to win the battle. My best analogy for this is like Robin Hood, like a bow and arrow in your archer's quiver. You don't need to use all the arrows to win the battle, but the more arrows that you have in your quiver, the better your chances for sure. Buying a home is different than any other purchase that you're ever going to make. It's one person making all the rules, and they never do it the same. It's what we call a one-off deal. It's one seller selling one home one time, and they can pretty much do it however they want to. So for my fellow control freaks out there, relinquish your desire for control. And that goes quadruple if you're in a bidding war. So if this bums you out and you're thinking, dude, that sucks. Well, you saw right at the beginning, 50 tips for bidding wars. What'd you think I was going to talk about? There's no sugarcoating here. The brutal truth means that you 100% absolutely must believe that buying a home is the best thing for you and your family if you get into a bidding war. Now, you can get that confidence from many of the other episodes, but for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that you've already done all the research and you are 100% confident in this decision, ready to move forward. And now you just want to make sure you're going into battle fully prepared to win. With this list of 50 things, it's going to put you miles ahead of the competition. And there's one important rule that you have to remember in this game that has no rules. The rule has 3 parts, and it applies to all 50 tips. None of these tips work every time. Some of these tips may be applicable to your specific situation, and just one of these tips could be the trick that puts your offer over the top and gets you your dream home. So got it? None, some, and one. Remember that. Okay, I broke down the 50 tips, hacks, and tactics into 5 different categories. I'll start with category 1, the mindset hacks. Now, this is vital to your success. This is where you're going to get the confidence that you need so you can go into a bidding war without flinching. In fact, these are the psychological foundations that determine whether a buyer even survives a bidding war. Tip number 1, you got to decide that you're all in. You can't win bidding wars if you're still trying to figure out, maybe I should be timing the market differently. I've been going over the details for timing the market, and if you're looking for more information on that, episodes 401, 426, and 460. I can't get too deep into decide. You got to do that on your own. We've got all 50 of these to go through, so no time to break this down. I assume that you're here because you're already all in, and you want to hear the rest of these 49 tips. Number 2, once you've decided, now you have to believe Ted Lasso style. He's my hero. And for some of you out there, you're going to believe completely When you know your numbers backwards and forwards, that's what helps you get completely on board. For others of you, maybe you're not a big numbers person, so you just need to trust your team completely. So either way, it takes prep before you work the offer, either understanding and knowing the numbers yourself or having complete trust and belief in your team. You gotta believe in the process before you jump in. Confidence matters because when you get into these bidding wars, the buyers who hesitate lose homes. Tip number 3, stop looking for the magic formula in your price, your terms, and your offer. There is no spreadsheet that tells you what to offer or how to respond to counteroffers. Each home is a one-off, and each home has one seller with different needs, demands, and sometimes it's totally irrational. The winning offer spreadsheet is going to vary from seller to seller, and sometimes, logic is definitely not part of the equation. Number 4, understanding why bidding wars exist. It's a simple formula. Low inventory plus high demand equals competition. Details on that are in episode 457, and you should know those so you can have the confidence you need to jump in. Number 5, little truth bomb here, expect to lose homes. Depending on the market you're in your specific area, we've got buyers sometimes that are losing 2, 3, 4, 5 bids before they get a home, and sometimes even more than that. But you can definitely lower that number if you and your real estate support team go over this list together. Tip number 6 is think long-term, but there's 2 different ways you need to think long-term. First, don't step over dollars trying to pick up pennies. This applies to your original offer when you're negotiating the price and the terms. The bidding war that you're going through, and getting that first price and the first terms, getting that offer accepted, that's just the first of many negotiations if your offer gets accepted with that same seller. Because if you win the bidding war, you're going to be negotiating with them under contract, and you don't want to piss them off completely in your original negotiations. You want to create a fair, friendly relationship. There's more coming because you got negotiations on appraisals, inspections, disclosures, all kinds of things. And the second long-term thinking where you don't want to step over those dollars to pick up the pennies, that's in your overall evaluation of your top bid before you bail. This is my cap. I'm not going higher than that. I get it. I understand that. But when you focus so much on the numbers, you got to remember each home's going to be different and have different pieces of the puzzle that actually add up to what you're looking for. So take everything into account. If you've been at this a while and you haven't succeeded, or if you've done all your prep work and suddenly you end up finding a home that checks way more boxes than you thought you could get, be sure to give yourself the 30,000-foot view. Look down and know when you should get creative and stretch for value that goes far beyond just that top cap price that you had. Don't get stuck on a number. Think long term. Tip number 7 is another truth bomb. I'm with you. I support you. I am your ultimate champion. But when you're writing an offer in bidding wars, you have to accept that the seller has the power. They're selling one home one time, and they don't give a damn about getting a 5-star review from you. That's where your pregame comprehension of the process, that's going to give you the confidence in your decision. And that's crucial so you can accept this lame part of the deal. Number 8, for my emotional people out there, get ready, prepare for rejection. Losing offers, it's part of the process. I've seen this myself and I've heard about it thousands of times here at How to Buy a Home. People lose a home and then later on, with a little more understanding of how the game works, they win a bid for a better home. It happens all the time. I don't like to say, it wasn't meant to be. I like to say, okay, that one didn't work out. What did we learn from that? What are we learning for the next time? And how can we be prepared to make sure that if something is really what we want, we come into the game ready to rock and we make that home ours. Number 9, be ready to move fast. Homes that get multiple offers, the ones that have a lot of people looking at it, those move really quickly. We're talking hours, not days. So prepare. Have all your information ready to go. Have it in e-file so you can pass it on to everybody who needs it. And that includes bank statements to verify that you've got the funds for not only the initial earnest money deposit, but the down payment and the closing costs. You should already have this already prepped and had it checked over with your team before you even think about writing offers. And a little bonus trick with speed, level up your e-signing skills. If you haven't done that or you don't do that, check with your team to see what type of e-signing software they're going to use. Download the DocuSign app or whatever your team is using. You should be able to sign an offer on a bathroom break at work because hours matter. Sometimes minutes matter when it's really competitive for a home. And number 10, be ready to stay in the game. Do what you got to do to get yourself emotionally ready to be persistent. You got to prep for all the disappointment. There is no absolute set winning strategy that I can give to you right now because there isn't one set of rules for each individual bidding war. Everyone's different. You're going to get there, stay strong, and you're going to learn more with each attempt. All right, first category, mindset over. Category number 2, preparation hacks. Preparation is what allows buyers to move more aggressively when the moment arrives. Tip 11, spend time preparing, like a lot of time. This tip is truly telling you to literally count your time, count the hours that you spend in your preparation. If you spend an hour scrolling on Zillow looking at homes and you don't know your numbers backwards and forwards, then you just wasted an hour. Have multiple different meetings with your real estate support team to know what you can do and then what you want to do, what fits all your goals. You have to implant this confidence in your head so you're not wasting time looking at homes online, window shopping, because what I see all the time is people aren't prepared. They're window shopping and then they find the perfect home, but they absolutely don't have the right game plan to go out there and get it. Tip number 12. Now, I don't say that you can't look at homes completely. In fact, this tip is know the comparable properties, know the comps, learn the market values, understand what homes are actually selling for. You need that information before you start writing offers. And a little tip, never look at the list prices. List prices are garbage. Work with your team. What you want to study is the sold prices only. And occasionally you might want to look at the days on market and see how quickly homes are being sold. These factors, they're based on facts, not emotions. You should get enough information from your team so you can confidently look at any home when you're later on down in the process and you can guess Price is Right style how much that home should sell for. Tip number 13, study list price strategy. Now, I told you, list prices are garbage and they don't matter because a lot of times a home, it might sell for tens of thousands under the list price because the seller got greedy and listed it too high, or especially in bidding war times, it could sell for over the list price. In a competitive market, many homes are intentionally underpriced. It's a strategy to create these bidding wars. Tip number 14. If that's happening, know the typical overbid range in your area. And remember, this is a generality that can be blown to bits from one seller to the other. Because if you're looking at a home and you're thinking, oh, well, these homes are going for $10,000 more. Well, maybe that seller listed it for $25,000 less than the list price. You got to understand and know the market value before you get out there. And with the right offer and the protection of the appraisal for you, don't worry about it. You cannot overpay. More on that and understanding the appraisal process a little bit later on. But keep that in mind. If you've got an appraisal contingency in place, you can't overpay. So that's why that list price matters so little in comparison to what the actual value of the home is. Tip number 15, before you go out looking at homes, have your loan fully underwritten. Period. The end. Curtain. Do it. Now, if you don't know what that means, well, then that means you're in the early stages. So you've got some pre-work to do. Having a fully underwritten loan means that your offer is going to blow away a bunch of your competition, even offers that are higher than yours. We'll get into that a little bit more later on also. For details on how to do your loan prep, check the show notes. I put a list of loan episodes to empower you in the entire loan process. And gang, there's 12 of them. So be ready to listen to a dozen episodes on the topic of loans. And if you're like, dude, really? That much? Okay, this is a purchase for hundreds of thousands of dollars. If 6 to 8 hours of research is too much for you, truth bomb, you're not going to get the best deal and you probably are never going to have a shot in the bidding wars. Not in 2026. That's why we're talking about this now. So get your mindset ready listening to episodes 426, 457, and 460. Now, that's going to lay out all the math, the solutions, and the reality of the 2026 market. I cannot emphasize enough how much more confidence you're going to take into your home buying adventure when you comprehend those episodes. And then when you're trying to figure out your loan stuff, the other dozen episodes that are down in the show notes, because then you don't have to worry about emotions because you're going to be making your decisions based on math, the math for 2026. And the creative solutions, they're going to help you come out ahead. And understanding your loan and presenting it correctly, that is a gigantic part of your offer that you're going to throw onto the pile in your bidding wars. Now, I don't say this to scare you. I don't want you to think, my God, this dude's giving me all this homework. Well, yeah, it's a big purchase. But the deal is, I know a secret. Let me go back to my arrows in the quiver analogy. This list on its own, sure, it's going to load your quiver with 50 arrows, but they're going to be dull and they're not going to do the work that you want them to. Without the prep work and the knowledge, these arrows are useless. You win more bidding wars with the work that you do months ahead of time filling your quiver before you ever actually implement any of the hacks on this list. Tip number 16, be ready to write offers immediately. Speed is the best way to snag a deal. You can get a home before it has time to gather more competitive offers. Be ready. After months of slow research at your own pace, just get set. Things are going to start moving really fast. And also, you must know all your options ahead of time. You don't want to figure that out once you're in a counteroffer. Because if you need time to discuss the details of all the options that you have and the way that you frame and shape your offer, especially a counteroffer, you're going to be out of the running before you can respond because things need to come back fast. Tip number 17, prepare your financial flexibility. If it takes a certain price or a certain monthly payment for you to get your dream home, you and your team, maybe that's not plan A. So you already should have ready plan B, plan C, and plan D so that you can structure your loan, your down payment, your closing costs, your monthly payment so that you can get that dream home. And you want to have that ready even if you never use plan B, C, or D. Tip number 18, know your maximum offer before you walk in. Price, it's just a number. So you got to know how you can adjust your numbers and know all your options. Things like this one. Is it better for you to offer $400,000 on a $399,000 listing, or is it better to offer $410,000 with a $10,000 seller credit back to you? So if that's what you need, maybe you need that to change your cash position to buy the home. Or if you want to change your monthly payment, could you use that $10,000 to buy down the loan? This is where doing all that early prep work with your team is going to open doors for you when things start to get competitive. Number 19, understand the seller's motivation. Now, I want to make sure, don't put too much emphasis on this. I see buyers get way hung up on this, thinking they could somehow get some secret information and get the deal. Sometimes that can happen, but more often than not, especially in a bidding war, it's not as helpful as you think it is. Seller motivation is less important when they got a bunch of people bidding to try to buy their home. Real estate, it all comes down to two things: time and money. And never is that more prevalent than when you have multiple offers. You and your team need to prep ahead of time to maximize your flexibility on both time and money. That way you can make your offer the most enticing to that individual seller and their needs. Tip number 20 is to learn the rules of the local market. Now, the best way to do this is to ask your team what's been working recently for first-time homebuyers with the local listing agents, because it is a little bit different everywhere you go. I mean, what worked for your cousin in Chicago, a lot of times it has nothing to do with how they're buying homes in Portland. All right, what are we, 20, 25 minutes in? Let's get to the good stuff. These are the deep hacks. Category number 3. These are technical things that a lot of people don't realize they can do in bidding wars. So get ready to hear about terms. There's so much emphasis on price, but yours offers strength. It's actually so much more than just the number at the top of the page. Although tip number 21 is about the number at the top of the page. Just be ready to overbid. Lowball offers in multiple offer situations, they lose immediately. You have to have the confidence to know what you want to pay, or maybe even a touch above whatever the market value is for the home. And if you come in low, sometimes they might not even send you a counteroffer. Tip number 22. This is one I've been using for years, and you might think it sounds silly, but it totally works. Here's the tip. $402,350 beats $400,000 every time. I told you guys, sellers are a one-off. That's true, but they are still people. And if they've got a listing that started at $375 and all 5 buyers brought in $375, and then they got a counteroffer, well, now you got to assume maybe everybody's going to go up to around $400. Like maybe they've got that cap set, and most people set their cap at a round number. So to show the seller that you're better than the rest and that you want to get them the absolute best offer possible, throw in that $402,350 offer. In the long run, it's definitely not a lot of extra money in your monthly payment, but it will separate you from everybody else. Tip number 23, increase your earnest money deposit to whatever the highest amount is in your particular area. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, because number one, you're going to be protected. Don't worry about it. A great realtor is going to make sure that you're not going to lose that money. You're going to have time to figure out if you want to pull out of the deal. But by showing them you're going to put in the largest possible amount for your earnest money deposit, it shows that you have skin in the game. You're offering a commitment to the deal. Tip number 24, shorten the inspection periods. Everybody freaks out about the inspection period, and because of that, most of the contracts have a pretty long boilerplate or standard timeline written in the contract. But if you can reduce that period, that actually reduces the seller's stress, their uncertainty, and it shows that you have a professional team who can move quickly and is not going to leave the seller hanging in limbo, trying to figure out if you're actually going to go through the deal. Seller doesn't want to have to wait weeks to figure out if you're going to fully commit. A professional unicorn realtor can be sure that you're protected, and they can get you a thorough inspection in truly half the time that most of the contracts say, and definitely half the time the other inexperienced agents. And the fact that your offer is presented this way, it shows that you're letting the seller know, hey, I'm totally down on getting you the best price, but I'm also serious about making sure that you're as stress-free as possible throughout this process. Tip number 25, the exact same concept, shorten your loan contingency. But the loan contingency, so you know, that's an even bigger factor to the seller with your offer. This says, hey, I'm not stressed about this at all. We've been working on the loan for months. No worries here. When I've got things really pumping in Southern California and I've had my buyers, really in competitive situations, a lot of times I'll check with my lender before we end up writing the offer and I'll say, can we just remove the loan contingency now? And they go, yeah, we're fine. We're totally underwritten. If you need to get out because of the home inspection, then you can get out of the deal, but you can tell them right away, no matter what, the loan's going to happen here. Tip number 26. Now, this is a general rule, but again, it could be different depending on the seller. But most of the time, your seller wants their money fast. Sellers love speed. Real estate's all about time and money, and this is the time side. If they're selling that home because they want to buy another home, well, the sooner that they close, the sooner they get the money in their bank account so they can go out and put a solid offer on the next home they want to buy. Now, if going quick freaks you out because you're worried about breaking your lease, that's another one where you could be stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Listen to episode 412 if that's a concern of yours, and make sure you know the math before you jump into the bidding war game. Tip number 27. If it's the other side of the coin, you want to make sure that you've got some place to stay and you want to offer flexible, what we call possession dates. In other words, maybe they want a longer contract period. In some cases, the sellers might need more time. You can even talk to your realtor about the option of offering them a closing early because every seller wants that. They get their money, but you can let them stay in their home for a little while. What you do is you offer them what's called a rent back or a lease back. And that's where you close on the home, they get their money, and now you set up a second contract where you're the landlord. And that extra time and the fact that maybe the other people who are writing offers, maybe they need to move in right away. If you don't have to, that extra time could be a factor that wins you the deal. I've had buyers who, because we could offer a rent back or a lease back to the sellers, we ended up getting our offer accepted, even though it wasn't the highest one in the bidding war. Tip number 28, cover the seller costs. Now, this one is a little bit technical. Here's the math on it. Now, seller, when they're selling their home, they're paying 5 to 6% in commission fees to sell their home. That's your buyer's agent and seller agent fees. And then they're going to have closing costs too. That's usually 2 to 3% of the purchase price. So if you're in a deal and you're thinking the prices are getting up a little bit too high and you're concerned about the appraisal, you can give them a higher net profit without going up to a much higher price. Here's the math on that. So a traditional offer of $405,000, that's the same net profit to the seller as a $400,000 offer if you're kicking in $5,000 credit to the seller for their closing costs. Restructuring or structuring your offer with all these different type of mathematical equations or different things with your terms, you're not just putting a price on paper and trying to win that way. You're putting the puzzle pieces together to make it the best you can for that seller. A smaller way that you can do that is another different kind of seller credit. You can decide to pay for the traditional costs paid for by the seller. Like a lot of times that would be like the home warranty or the termite work. Now, it might only be, $500-$700, but it's a nice trick to help differentiate your offer from the other offers. And it also shows that your team understands the contract and these tactics, and that they understand even the small ways to net that seller the highest profits. And tip number 29, this is a great one that I've seen in bidding wars for a while. It's using an escalation clause. What it does is it automatically increases your offer if competing bids come in higher than yours. So for example, you might offer $400,000 with a clause that says you're going to beat any competing offer by $2,000, and you're going to do that up to a maximum price of $420,000. This allows you to put in an offer at a price that you don't feel like you're overpaying, but you can stay competitive in a bidding war without having to immediately jump to just your highest final offer. And then tip number 30, when it comes to writing up the offer, I go deep in these tactics in the OG bidding war episodes 175, 76, and 77. The summary of that, it's like this. Your offer combines the best price with your best terms. And the best way for you to learn how to stack those so you can get a killer winning offer is to ask your realtor to go over all the terms of the contract before you ever start writing offers. That way you know what are the levers you can pull before you start writing offers. And you're going to find that there are dozens of ways to make your offer stand out as not only the best offer, but as I said before, to illustrate that your offer is being presented by a savvy professional team who knows how to close deals. And that is a big deal to people selling their home. When they're looking at multiple offers, they want to know confidently that the one they pick is not only a good deal for them, but it's not going to flake. And they've got the right people who can close the home. All right, category 4. These are the advanced bidding war hacks. These are power tools, super hacks. Tip number 31, the appraisal gap coverage. Now, you have to pretty much understand how the appraisal process works, which is something that you can do with your real estate team, or you can go back and listen to those early episodes I talked about. But if you understand that when you buy a home, the home has to appraise for that value in order for you to get the loan. If you've got some extra cash, here's something you can do. If you found your dream home and you're willing to pay a little bit out of pocket above what you think the home is going to appraise for, and you want to do that because this home's perfect for you and your family. Maybe it's on the same street as your sister. That's an example I give all the time. When you overpay, when it checks multiple boxes or it has something unique you don't think you're going to find anywhere else. What you do is you write into your offer or in your counter offer an appraisal gap coverage. It's an advanced technique, and like I said, something you should go over with your team. This is the way it works. There are multiple offers at $415,000 on a home. And you and your team have talked about it. You've looked at all the sold comps. You think the home's worth about $425,000. And so you think it's going to appraise there. You know that there's a bunch of other offers. They all came in somewhere between $400,000 and $415,000. And now you've been told that everybody has been given a counter offer to bring in their highest and best final offer. This is a very typical counter offer we see all over the country. Well, you love this home and you want to get it. You've done the long-term math and you're thinking, you know what? We're going to stay here at least 10 years. This might even be a forever home. And we do have an extra $7,000. So let's figure out a way to use that to secure our offer. Here's how you frame your offer. You assume that the other offers know that 425 is the likely appraised value. So everyone, they're going to be coming in and they're going to try to win the deal on other factors like the terms in their offer. So you write a strong offer and you write the strongest terms you can so you can match theirs. Then you've got this extra. You can add the appraisal gap clause. Instead of offering $425,000, you offer $435,000 with an appraisal gap coverage up to $7,000. So that means if you get the home and the home appraises at $425,000, you're guaranteeing you're going to pay $7,000 above that appraised value, and you're going to use that cash commitment to tell them, hey, we'll come in. Everyone else is just doing $425,000 or whatever the home is appraising for. We're going to get you whatever the home appraises for plus $7,000 out of pocket. So in that case, they're going to end up at $432,000 and everyone else was capping their offers at $425,000. Yes, this is the grown-up negotiating. Now, there's a few different ways that you can structure an appraisal gap into your offer, your counter offer, and it's really dependent on the seller's evaluation of where they think the appraisal is going to land. And it takes a lot of communication between your agent and a listing agent, but it's a great tool to win competitive bidding wars. If you want to go big and you've got some extra cash and you're not bummed out about going a little bit over the appraisal because you know this is the home you want, but you do want a cap on it to protect yourself. Woo! Stay with me, folks. Like I said, you got to really work on the preparation ahead of time so you know all these things, because I'm telling you, if you try to learn all this on a Saturday night after you put an offer in when they're sending you a counter offer the next day, oh, it is just a headache. It's difficult. It's stressful. You won't sleep. So make sure that you've gone over all this stuff if you're in a competitive region of the country and you know some of this stuff might be what you need to win the home. Tip number 32. Now, this is a high risk tip, but in some places, and if it works for you, waiving the appraisal is a really good way for you to get your offer accepted. It makes your offer extremely strong, but you're guaranteeing that you're going to pay out of pocket. If the home appraises low, you're going to pay the entire difference. So don't do this one unless you've discussed that this home is the perfect home and you've got the cash and you want to do this. It's not something that you want to do just so you can get your offer accepted. You have to understand what you're doing. But if you do understand it, this is an extremely strong negotiating tactic. Tip number 33, reduce your down payment to free up cash. I've got tons of episodes about reducing your down payment so you can have more cash so that the monthly payment is more comfortable for you. But a lot of times you can use that cash in the initial process. If you've got the liquidity, you can get other creative solutions like we talked about earlier, paying the seller's closing costs, or maybe you weren't even thinking about an appraisal gap or waiving the appraisal. But now that you're going from 20% to 3.5% down, maybe you've got some extra cash and that's going to help you win the deal. This is a really big tip because when it comes to the negotiations, cash is king. But again, I'm assuming that everyone who's listening to this has done their pre-planning and worked for a team with a team for months. So don't go saying, hey, realtor I found on Zillow, Sidoni says that I should do this. You need to work with a team ahead of time. And that's not only because I want you to be protected, it's because you're going to learn about options that you never knew were available to you. Tip number 34, demonstrate your loan strength. This one, it's all done in the pre-planning. So your lender, they can confidently present your offer with the exact same confidence as they do a cash offer. If you spend months with a lender, they can come in and say, this dude's rock solid. And that is a huge difference that you get when you do all that pre-work with the unicorn lender and the realtor, because the best in the business don't just provide a letter attached to an email and say, yeah, this guy's good. They have you completely ready to go. And the great lenders, they're actually going to follow up on the offer. They're going to call. They're going to want to speak directly to the listing agent to ensure them, hey, this is a quality buyer. I've been working for them. And what we call calling behind the offer, that's something you only get when you're working with a unicorn lender. You're not going to get that from your 9-to-5 bankers. But that moment, them speaking directly to the listing agent, that time of professional to professional conversation, that can be the difference between getting your offer accepted over another offer that's maybe equal or maybe even a little bit higher than your offer is. Tip number 35, if you can, remove certain contingencies strategically. Now, this is where you can really brief up the terms. We got price and terms, but terms, that can be the big difference. Once your offer is accepted, the contingency period, that's the typical time that you have to look at the home before you fully commit to the purchase. And that's where you're going to fully commit your earnest money to the deal. It's called different things in different areas. I've talked about that in the other episodes. There's the contingency period, the due diligence period, the option period, or the conditions period. So talk with the team about that ahead of time. And you can look at that and you can maybe keep some of your contingencies and remove some of the others because you know they're going to be fine, or you can keep just one of them and that will keep your full timeline in place so you do your full inspections to check out the home. So that way your timeline's fully in place, but your team can present an offer that looks a lot stronger because you've strategically removed the contingencies or conditions that you feel comfortable with, because you've done all that stuff ahead of time and the seller's like, oh, this guy doesn't have to do all this stuff. They're ready to go. And that goes right into tip 36, which is writing a clean offer. That is a big deal in real estate, a clean offer. And of course, you're not writing the offer, so this is where your real estate team comes in. A unicorn realtor can write a squeaky clean offer for you so the seller and the listing agent know that this is going to be a smooth transaction. That speaks volumes. All things considered, if there were two similar offers, a professional, clean, and well-presented offer from a respected local real estate agent, that's going to win every time. High price and net profit, sure, that's a great way to get to the top of the pile. But if all things are equal, your realtor's presentation to demonstrate your ability to close, that is priceless to the people who are selling the home. Tip number 37, you want to anticipate counteroffers. Just be ready for it. Winning often happens in the second round, and speed matters there. So in some states, they can actually accept one counteroffer without getting them all back. So if you wait too long, snooze, you lose. Tip number 38, be the most certain buyer. Yes, sellers want price, but the agent wants to be certain that this is going to close. They want safety. Ability to close is priceless. Be sure that your team can articulate and demonstrate how you can do this. I said you can do this in the middle of the podcast, but we're not done. Tip number 39, make the sellers and the listing agents' lives easier. A great realtor is going to present a clean, easy to understand offer. And when your offer assumes, hey, the reason I'm doing it like this is because one, I want to be professional, but two, I understand you're probably very busy and I respect your time, Mr. or Mrs. Listing Agent. I know that you fought hard in the first place to be the team that's selling this home. So here it is. Let's make your life easy. We as realtors just aren't looking at the price. We're also looking to see, hey, does this offer look like it's someone that's going to reduce my risk for my seller and my stress for me and my uncertainty? I don't want that drama, so show me a good offer. And number 40, throw it all in the initial offer. Now, look, a lot of people disagree. They don't think this is the way to properly negotiate. But in real estate, this is what I've been doing for 20 years. And for first-time home buyers, I see that this technique wins more than it loses. A lot of people are going to tell you to hold back on your first offer because they read a book on negotiating. And I get it. They want you to have stuff to bring out the big guns in the counter offers. But I've seen it work the opposite way. When you know it's going to be competitive, if you're expecting multiple offers and multiple counter offers probably, if you want the home, don't hold back. I mean, within reason. Try to blow everyone out of the water with your first offer, and I'll explain why that works. Because what happens then, it's nuanced, but what you're going to do is you're going to immediately eliminate many of those offers. That's because that's the way real estate works. And especially, it's the way real estate works in 2026 because of this. Much of your competition, first of all, they're not going to have done as much preparation as you have. And they're not going to know what to expect in a counteroffer. But what we see all the time, and especially with first-time home buyers, and especially right now, because affordability is such a big issue these days, many people go see a home, they love it, they get super excited, and maybe it's a little stretch for them. Maybe it's at their max. So their first offer, that's going to be the best they've got. Now, if you bring your offer in and it's low and matches their max offer, then in the counteroffer round, the selling agent, well, they're going to be reviewing 5, 10, 15 offers, and they're going to send counteroffers to everybody, maybe thinking that they're going to get 3 or 4 serious ones that come through. But if you offer a very strong price, terms, timing, and financing, all with your first offer, and you're saving just a little bit, not a whole bunch for the next round in counteroffers, you're doing the listing agent a favor. And that's always good when you're in a multiple offer situation. Because what's going to happen is you're going to reduce the workload down to just the few people that were going to be competing with you. If you had 15 or 20 and you all bid up, a bunch of them aren't going to come up anyway. But everyone's going to come back if everyone starts low. But if the listing agent can turn around and tell everybody, hey, just so you know, we got to get up to at least this level, or, hey, a bunch of them came in a lot higher than yours. A lot of those people, they're not even going to get back in the game. So now it's just you and the 3 or 4 people that were going to be there in the first place. And the listing agent just kind of subconsciously appreciates the fact that you came in strong in the first place. And on the emotional side of things, the seller, they see every offer too. And sellers are crazy, man. A lot of times they're like, oh, this person disrespected my home. It happens. But if you're the one that came in strong when everyone else came in low, they're going to be like, well, this person really wants the home. Even if someone else that there's only 3 or 4 of you left. If they come in higher than yours, but you're close to theirs in the counteroffer phase, they might be like, well, this guy started high in the first place, so I think he really, really wants the home. It's brownie points for you going into round 2. The winning formula in bidding wars, it's this: price plus terms plus speed plus clarity. The buyer who presents an excellent balance of all 4 of those things, they're most likely to win the deal. All right, we're going to wrap things up with the final 10 of these 50. It's figuring out your team to present your offer in the best way possible. I know a lot of people out there, they see realtors as door openers and a lender is just someone with the best interest rate. But I'm telling you, man, in 2026, especially if you get a bidding war this year, that type of representation, if that's what is bringing in your offer, that's a surefire way to lose homes time and time again. You might miss tons of great deals. You might lose your dream home. And I've seen so much frustration, stress, and anguish. Yeah, I said anguish, gnashing of teeth. Seriously, it can be so intensely stressful because you're thinking, well, what's going on? Well, you're not getting in the game because you don't have the right coach. The number one tip that I've given on the show for 7 years is to hire the best first-time homebuyer specialized team in your area. Because you're going to be shocked at the options available to you. You're probably going to be able to do this quicker and easier than you ever thought possible. And if you do have to get into a multiple offer situation, when it comes to negotiation, they know how to elevate your offer to the highest levels possible. They understand everything that I said and all the tips ahead of time, and they can take that and do even more with them. So tip number 41 is to hire a unicorn realtor. In episode 436, I tell you how to interview for a realtor so you could find something that I call a unicorn realtor, which I actually explained what that all is in 437. And this might sound odd to you, but a lot of people, when they're focusing on who they want to hire and what their main job is, they're focused on making sure that realtor knows the area, can help find them the best home, when in actuality, that's one of the least important parts of your realtor's job. Once a home is found, securing you the home, getting you the deal, and protecting you in that deal, that's the most important thing that your realtor does. And that all happens in the offer. And the reason I call them a unicorn realtor is because they care about you, but they also have the speciality and the expertise to know how to do this for a first-time homebuyer. They've done it dozens of times before. They know the tactics that work in your local market, and they know how to position your offer so it shines. Nowhere is the expertise of your team more important than if you're in a bidding war. Tip number 42, hire that unicorn realtor first. And then you can have them recommend to you a few first-time homebuyer specialized unicorn lenders to you. Now, look, I understand. That's different than everything that you've heard. But you know what? Everyone else is doing this average. And I don't do average education here. I do extraordinary so that you can succeed even in the tough market of 2026. The entire philosophy for this is laid out in the 10 steps that I said at the start of episode 400. And when you have the best of the best in your realtor and lender recommended from the realtor, then you've got two people that have worked together in the past. And they're not working independently like an online lender and a realtor that you found at an open house. These two people know each other. And that is so important when you're presenting your offer. You are presenting a united offer from a united team. It shows so much greater stability and security to that seller's agent and to the seller as well. Tip number 43, that's an easy one. Avoid rookie agents. Inexperience, that can destroy your offer's ability to even get looked at. That's all laid out in the 10 steps as well. And tip number 44, a unicorn agent, I call them that, and they're magical, mystical people who combine a lot of wonderful talents, but a unicorn creates a different presentation, and that presentation can be the tipping point to your success. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I'm selling a home, I can tell you in 3 minutes of talking to an agent or in reading their offer email that they're presenting from their buyer. I can tell you in 3 minutes if it's legit, if the agent has a clue, or if they understand the process. And I will immediately turn and tell my seller, we got this one, and this one. And they'll go, well, what do you think? And I go, well, I have to make sure you understand. Look at the price. Okay, you got everything there? Great. This one was presented professionally. This one was presented sloppily. This one, I don't know. The agent really didn't even understand what I was talking about. And as the agent representing the seller, nobody wants to bring that to them. We're sitting there gritting our teeth for the entire time we're under contract because we don't know if this thing is going to close. Buying a home isn't logical, especially when you're in a bidding war. And if you and other offers are super similar, sometimes it comes down to vibe. The seller chooses the offer that just feels right. And that's why the presentation from your agent, that's why it matters so much. Tip number 45, work with a team that moves fast. The one thing that I hear in all the interviews that I've done with new homeowners over the last 7 years is, man, David, I know, I listened to the podcast. You told me it was going to go fast. I knew it. You said it, but man, I had no idea. So here I am saying it again. It goes fast. And if you've got an agent that's inexperienced or not well-trained, bad agents, they move way too slow and they lose you deals. And it turns out that a lot of times, if you've got to do a counteroffer, they can't explain something to you with certainty because they got to spend time going and looking it up. You want someone who's been there, done that. And tip number 46, game knows game. Relationships and communications between the realtors, that influences decisions. And a lot of times, I told you I can do it in 3 minutes. Sometimes I can look at a name and know, oh, good, this will be a good one. Your agent's reputation matters. Your listing agents, they're the local pros. They're the ones who've been selling homes in that tract for 25, 30 years. And they know the buyer's agents who are bringing the offers in, they know that 85 to 90% of them are newer, inexperienced, undertrained agents. That's the way the game works, and they know it. So when a listing agent finally recognizes a professional name from the agent who's representing the buyer, do you know how we feel? Relieved. It's relief. Wouldn't that be a great way to know that that's how you're being presented to the seller as a relief? You're the solution to their problems. And tip number 47, same thing. Have a lender that the sellers trust as well. Now, a lot of times, your mortgage brokers, they've got way more hustle and way more determination than a 9-to-5 lender who comes from one of the big banks or one of the local credit unions. Those guys don't put in the hustle and they don't put in the work. And the listing agents know that. Tip number 48, again with your lender, find someone who can close fast. You and your lender should talk ahead of time to say, hey, how fast are people usually closing in this area? How long does it take you to get a loan? Because the closing time period is almost always dependent on how long it takes to close a loan. You can do your inspections and disclosures and all that in 10 days, but your loan still might take 21 days to finish at the fastest. A lot of times it's 30 to 35. So talk to your lender ahead of time and find out what their competitive timelines are because you think you might be getting into bidding wars. Short closing timelines, that strengthens your offer. And tip number 49 is what I call the sandwich. This is to help you understand how important who you hire is to your negotiation process, especially if you're going to get into multiple offer situations. Most people think that you hire a realtor to show you homes and you hire your lender to get you pre-approved. The deal is that task is actually like the middle of the sandwich, right? You secure your dream home with the bread around that middle piece. Now, the bottom piece of bread, that's the skill to write a winning offer that also makes sure you're totally protected. And the top half, the top bread, that's your realtor and your lender coaching you, giving you action steps, pre-planning things that you can do weeks, months, even years ahead of time. So you know positively with full confidence exactly how this process is going to work. And you know that if you get into a bidding war, you've already gone over all your options and you know what you can do to try to get you the home. The battle of multiple offers, it's not won on the battlefield. It's won in boot camp and in the creation of the perfect strategy in the war room. And that all happens months before you ever engage in battle. Winning offers start before the house hunting is even a thought in your mind. And then tip number 50, it's market awareness. Just know that your door openers and people that you find who aren't first-time homebuyer specialists and are not highly active in your local area working with other first-time homebuyers, they're not going to know the details that matter in the current market cycle. All right, there it is. That's the stuff to put you so far ahead of every other buyer out there that you can go into the mayhem feeling like a 7-foot-tall seasoned warrior ready to rock. And you shouldn't feel like you're going into this alone, even though you're 7 feet tall. If you hire correctly, You're going to feel like you're a passenger in the process with two 15 feet tall people in front of you, blazing the path to victory for you. So my best advice to you is this. Sure, you can get familiar with all the 50 tips that I gave you so you can have those arrows in your quiver and talk to your agent about using those when you're in a really competitive situation. But the best way to win a bidding war is to hire a unicorn team that already knows all these strategies. Like I said, in theory, you can learn all these tactics, but your realtor and lender, shouldn't they already know these? They should be able to do this stuff in their sleep. Okay, that was a lot, but if you want more education and more first-time homebuyer empowerment, especially here in 2026, check the show notes for all the episodes I mentioned. And anytime, you can always go to howtobuyahome.com. There's a button that says Ask David. Hit that button, and I will get back to you myself. Or there's a button that says, Dude, give me a unicorn. I can do that too. When it comes to bidding wars, knowledge equals confidence. So now you know, so don't be scared of bidding wars because you have the information. So now you can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuy.com to get started.